Against Animal Testing. Group 3, Animals and Society 67. Kayla Vidria Murillo, Leslie Rojas Vasquez, Joseph Singh, and Giselle Mercado.
Animal experimentation has been beneficial to humanity, with its help in making major advancements to human medicine and giving us a better understanding of how the human body functions. However, it doesn't mean that animals have not suffered throughout history from our ancestors' invasive surgeries and even horrendous experiments. Just looking at the pictures of animal experimentation can make someone's stomach upset and even make them angry. Now, in today's society, so many people know now that animals are alive just like us with somewhat similar emotions and feelings to pain. Yet, there are still places where animal experimentations are still happening, where they follow the laws and regulations that are to ensure the animal is being tested humanely. Yet, with the continuation of animal testing, there will always be animal rights activists protesting and fighting for there to be a change in bettering all animals' lives. Their biggest drive to fight for animals' rights is due to the continuation of animal testing. We can look back in history to see when and how animal rights and animal welfare groups began to rise in numbers to enact a change in the treatment of animals. With those same groups having branched off into their organizations, their current member status reaches millions of members across the globe who willingly continue to fight against animal testing. It wasn't until the late 19th century that parts of society started to have an issue with animal testing. It started first in Britain with the Cruelty of Animals Act of 1876. This is when scientists were supposed to have a reduction in animal testing. Yet it didn't do much to change animal testing until the 19th century, when there was a rise in animal activists. Scientists in America have been given mandatory regulations and self-regulation to show animal protection groups that action is being taken to prevent any experiment repeats and avoid any harm and discomfort to the animal, as well as reduce the number of animals being tested. Nonetheless, animal protection groups are not satisfied due to there still being no moral rights given to animals. In historical events, while animal testing was being conducted, the most common procedure was vivisection. This term refers to the Latin words vivis, meaning alive, and section, meaning cutting. This refers to the surgery or dissection that is performed on a live animal. This practice was very common to use while testing experiments on animals and showing to the public during these experiments, all while the animal was given no pain medication. Yet, when was it that humanity started to care for animals during these cruel experiments? Well, it wasn't until 1824 in the London, UK, when cruelty to animals was quite common and thought to be accepted. This was when a small group of individuals, including Arthur Broom, William Wilberforce, and Richard Martin, decided to make a change. They used to have small meetups at an old coffee shop where they began to establish the first ever national animal protection organization in the world. It was called the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, in shorter terms called RSPCA. With enough recognition, they were able to gain the royal status in 1840 under Queen Victoria. Since then, the organization grew and broadened itself, and by 1866 was when America joined shortly after. It was called the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, also known as ASPCA. It was founded by diplomat Henry Bergh in New York City under the leadership of Abraham Lincoln. He expressed his belief for the president, stating that animals are entitled to kindness and respectful treatment at the hands of humans and must be protected under the law. His words carried on, and humanity started to slowly understand the importance that animals brought to society, where many individuals and smaller groups started to dive deeper into the treatment of animals, finding that not much has changed within labs that house animals for testing. A nonprofit organization within the United States rose up to take action. This group is widely known as the Humane Society of the United States, also known as HSUS. This was founded in 1954 by animal rights activists Helen Jones and Fred Myers with the purpose of preventing cruelty to animals in laboratories, slaughterhouses, and puppy mills. In their history of making a change, they were able to successfully implement a sales ban for animal-tested cosmetics in Europe and even India. They are still pushing for regulatory shifts in other countries as well. Later in 1980, one group started a controversy against the Institute of Behavioral Research in Silver Spring, Maryland, where researcher Edward Hobbs conducted experiments on 17 macaque monkeys by making their limbs go numb in order for him to observe how the brain changes to an altered sensory input. This case sparked major controversy and led to widespread activism, including the involvement of PETA. This was the beginning of when the organization People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, aka PETA, became widely known. This organization was founded by animals activists Alex Pacheco and Nurek. Their implementation of change has been widely known through their harsh and hard to swallow protests, where members of the group have walked around naked in order to protest the use of wearing no fur and even having people locked in cages to show the reality of how animals in labs are being treated. Throughout history, we continued to understand what changes we had to make and what organizations had to rise up to make that change, especially in animal testing. When viewing the ethical aspects of animal experimentation, the main concern is ensuring the welfare of the animals is being used while performing these experiments. This includes making sure they are being housed properly, if they are receiving adequate care, and are not being subjected to any unnecessary pain or distress. Whereas now, due to the many uprising organizations that fight on behalf of the animals, researchers must justify the need for using animals in any experiments. This often involves having researchers plead their case that the experiment and the medical advancements that will result from it will greatly outweigh the ethical cost of using animals. They even have to follow ethical guidelines that emphasize the three R's: replacement, reduction, and refinement, with many countries having based laws and regulations in labs or places that oversee any form of animal experimentation. These regulations aim to ensure that experiments are conducted humanely. There is also the pressure of public opinion growing concerned about animal testing, leading to increased calls for transparency and the development of alternative methods. With many people advocating for animal rights, they even seek to eliminate the use of animal research altogether. The reason is that some argue that animal testing may not always be accurate and cannot predict human responses, which even raises the ethical question of whether or not the experiments are even reliable or necessary. This ongoing debate of the ethics on animal experimentation is an ongoing debate that continues to shape the policies and practices that go into the scientific research field.
The cultural importance against animal testing. The cultural movement against animal testing is gaining significant momentum rooted in evolving values and perspectives on our relationship with the non human world. A growing emphasis on animal welfare and rights. Modern societies are increasingly recognizing animals as sentient beings capable of experiencing pain, fear, and distress. This shift in cultural consciousness fosters a greater ethical concern for animal welfare and challenges the view of animals as mere tools for human benefit. The animal rights movement, a significant cultural force, actively advocates for the inherent rights of animals and their protection from exploitation, including in research. Changing perceptions of human responsibility. There's a growing cultural understanding that humans have a responsibility to minimize harm to other living creatures. This perspective questions the justification of causing suffering to animals in the pursuit of human knowledge or benefit, especially when alternative methods are being developed. This reflects a broader ethical evolution in how we perceive our place in the ecosystem. Increased value of compassion and empathy. Many cultures are placing a greater emphasis on compassion and empathy towards all living beings. The visual and narrative power of campaigns against animal testing resonate with these values, fostering a cultural climate that questions the morality of such practices. Documentaries, social media, and educational initiatives play a significant role in raising awareness and promoting empathy. The rise of ethical consumerism. Consumers are increasingly making purchasing decisions based on ethical considerations, including whether products have been tested on animals. The cruelty free movement has become a significant market force, influencing industries to adopt alternative testing methods and demonstrating a cultural demand for ethical products. This consumer power reinforces the cultural importance of ending animal testing. Challenging anthropocentric worldviews. The movement against animal testing often aligns with broader philosophical and cultural shifts that challenge purely anthropocentric, human centered worldviews. There's a growing recognition of the interconnectedness of all living things and a move towards a more biocentric or ecocentric perspective that values the intrinsic worth of all life. promoting innovation and scientific advancement. Ironically, the cultural push against animal testing is also driving innovation in scientific research. The demand for ethical and effective alternatives has spurred the development of advanced in vitro testing, computational modeling, and human based research methods. This cultural pressure is leading to scientific progress that may ultimately be more relevant and reliable than some animal models, amplifying diverse voices and perspectives. The cultural movement against animal testing brings together diverse voices, including scientists, ethicists, welfare advocates, artists, and the general public. This broad coalition reflects a widespread concern and strengthens the cultural significance of the issue. The increasing visibility of these voices in mainstream culture contributes to a shift in public opinion. In conclusion, the cultural importance of the movement against animal testing lies in its reflection of evolving ethical values, a growing sense of responsibility towards animals, the power of consumer choices, the challenging of anthropocentric views, and its role in driving scientific innovation. It represents a scientific shift in how many societies view animals and our relationship with them in the context of scientific advancement. The sociological importance against animal testing. The sociological importance of the movement against animal testing is multifaceted, reflecting significant shifts in how societies understand ethics, science, and our relationship with the non human world. Evolving ethical frameworks. Sociologically, the opposition to animal testing highlights a broadening of ethical considerations beyond human centric perspectives. The increasing recognition of animal sentience and the push for animal rights challenge traditional views that prioritize human interest above all else. This reflects a social trend towards greater inclusivity and moral consideration for marginalized groups, now extending to non human animals. The animal rights movement itself is a significant social movement advocating for fundamental changes in how animals are treated legally and ethically. The social construction of scientific legitimacy. The debate over animal testing questions the absolute authority of traditional scientific methodologies. The rise of alternative testing methods and the growing awareness of the limitations of animal models in predicting human responses contribute to sociological reevaluation of what constitutes valid and ethical scientific practice. This involves a social process of negotiating the boundaries of acceptable research and the criteria for scientific rigor. Influence of social movements and advocacy. Animal welfare and animal rights organizations have played a crucial sociological role in raising public awareness, lobbying for legislative changes, and challenging the status quo in scientific research and industry. Their activism shapes public discourse, influences consumer behavior, and puts pressure on institutions to adopt more ethical practices. These movements demonstrate the power of collective action in driving social change. Changing social norms and values. The increasing opposition to animal testing reflects a shift in social norms and values related to compassion, empathy, and responsibility towards animals. As societies become more affluent and prioritize post materialistic values, concerns about animal welfare gain prominence. This evolving cultural landscape creates a social environment where animal testing is increasingly seen as unacceptable. The role of media and culture. Documentaries, social media campaigns, and cultural narratives play a significant sociological role in shaping public perception of animal testing. These media can frame the issue in ways that evoke empathy for animals and highlight the potential cruelty and limitations of animal research, thereby contributing to the growing social opposition. Impact on economic and industrial structures. The cultural and social pressure against animal testing is beginning to influence economic and industrial practices. The growth of the cruelty free market and the increasing investment in alternative testing methods demonstrate how societal values can drive innovation and change within industries that have historically relied on animal testing. This highlights the interconnectedness of social values and economic systems. Public opinion and democratic processes. Shifting public opinion against animal testing can translate into political action, influencing legislation and regulations related to animal welfare and research and product testing. Understanding the sociological factors that shape public perception is crucial for analyzing policy changes and the future of animal testing. Public surveys often reveal a significant portion of the population opposes animal testing or supports it only under strict conditions and with the pursuit of alternatives. In essence, the sociological importance of the opposition to animal testing lies in its reflection of evolving ethical considerations, its challenge to traditional scientific norms, and the power of social movements, shifting values, the influence of media, its impact on economic structures, and its role in democratic processes related to animal welfare. It signifies a broader societal conversation about our responsibilities towards our living beings and the ethical boundaries of scientific progress. Current events against animal testing. FDA announces plan to phase out animal testing requirement for monoclonal antibodies and other drugs released on April 10, 2025. The new approach is designed to improve drug safety and accelerate the evaluation process while reducing animal experimentation, lowering research and development costs, and ultimately drug prices. The FDA's animal testing requirement will be reduced, refined, or potentially replaced using a range of approaches, including AI-based computational models of toxicity and cell lines and organoid toxicity testing in laboratory setting, the so-called New Approach Methodologies, or NAMS data. Also, the USDA report reveals an alarming rise in painful animal experiments released on January 27, 2025. The USDA finally restored a degree of transparency to its reporting of animals used in experiments, which revealed an alarming 9% increase in experiments which caused the most pain and suffering to animals. The article, which is then linked in the resource page, goes further into more figures and numbers of what who which animals were harmed and in which way. Finally, a new 3D printed skin could end cosmetic testing on animals released on April 6, 2025. Scientists have developed a 3D printed imitation of human skin with living cells as an advance. They say they could enable cosmetic testing without the use of animals. Researchers say the skin imitation mimics the natural 3-layer tissue structure of human skin and is ready for testing cosmetic nanoparticles. So overall, these current events are in hope to end animal testing altogether.
Against testing. Animals' rights are being violated when they are used in research. They are treated as tools and aren't given choices to leave. Animals experience suffering, pain, and death during these researches that are being done, which isn't worth the potential benefits of humans. As we all know, animals cannot express their preferences or choices, and humans are more than capable of making these decisions of their own well being without considering other qualities of life. Studies have shown that tests like LD50, meaning the median lethal dose test, are considered scientifically unjustifiable and cause animals to endure severe suffering. More against the testing. Animal testing usually leads to animals in laboratories that are often subjected to stressful conditions, including artificial environments and procedures that can cause distress and abnormal behaviors. In some cases, results of animal testings can be unreliable due to the influence of laboratory procedures and environments on the animal's physiological and behavior. Humans and animals are similar in some cases, but can be very different as well. Animal testing cannot always give you the best results due to the difference in human and animal body behavior. A summary of being against animal testing. Against animal testing means being against the animal's rights being violated when they are being used for research. When animals are being used for research, they are being used in the contents of getting a reaction of whatever they are putting in their systems. In lots of cases, this makes sense on why people should be against animal testing. History has proven that animals are getting hurt and aren't giving any choices whether or not they should be in these situations. There should be more ways where qualities of life don't have to get hurt because of these experimental things.
In my personal opinion, I believe that animal testing should be reduced and should only be used if the treatment would also benefit the animal's well being. That we have come so far in technological advances that we should be able to replace mostly animal testing with computer programs that can be stimulated the same way on living organisms can, possibly even testing the drug on an animal once it is deemed safe to do so. Furthermore, animal testing came such a long way that I believe we can do better by showing kindness to the animals that have served humanity for so long.
This is Joseph Singh. My personal opinion is that since continuing animal-based research seems to be a necessity currently, animal welfare practices within the laboratory should be held to the highest standards. I had vegan friends in high school that showed me horrible anti-vivisection videos, and I was deeply moved by these as any compassionate person would be. However, one must take into account the incalculable benefits and weigh these against the potential for abuse and cruelty, which is already being mitigated.
My personal opinion against animal testing. While I personally, with all my heart, would like to be totally against animal testing, a part of me sees how beneficial it is to us humans. And one thing that humans have always done is look out for themselves and their well being, doing whatever means possible to prosper. I hate to think about how much pain these testing animals are in every day due to us needing them to test some things before being used on us. With the new changes and advancements, hopefully I won't feel so torn about the issue and these animals can be at peace and live a long, painless life.
My personal opinion. Animal testing is a strong topic to talk about. Although I don't agree with animal testing, I think it's a better option. If it weren't the animals getting tested, then it would end up being the humans instead. I do believe that if we had other options, this decision would be much easier. If I had to choose between for or against, I would go with for because of the human health.